Drop down and give me 20, maggot.
I don't think that I could, to be honest with you.
Me either.
It's getting tougher these days for sure. How you doing,
Yeah, it
sir?
is. Doing good. How about you?
Man, I am very good. Just give a quick introduction. We are on the phone with an actual living legend, not only in the wrestling world, but the first person to be made into an action figure in the G.I. Joe toy line. I'm talking about the one and only Sergeant Slaughter. How are you today?
Ted Hutt. I'm doing great. Doing really great. Coming back to town.
Yeah, you're going to be in St. Augustine at the World Golf Village. They're doing a big River City Wrestling Con. It is going to be huge. I can't tell you. There are everybody who's anybody, who's ever been anybody in the wrestling world is going to be there signing autographs, taking pictures, the whole 9 yards.
Yes, they are. I'm really looking forward to it. It's like coming back home for me. I used to live in Ponte Vedra, Florida for a couple of years, about 5 years. And I always took a little journey over to St. Augustine to, visit St. George Street and Magnolia Avenue and go to my favorite spots over there, Harry's Seafood Bar and Grill and the Floridian. And the old, used to take pictures of, I don't know if it's still there, the old Senator Live oak tree. Is that still there?
Still there. Still living.
Yeah. Wow. That thing's about 600 years old.
Yeah, for sure. It's the oldest city in the country, which is crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It is. And we're going to be there this Saturday and Sunday, June 8th and 9th. And just looking forward to seeing everybody. Don't miss their opportunity to bring all your Sergeant Slaughter WWE wrestling and G.I. Joe collectibles to get signed, and hopefully you'll take advantage of joining the Sergeant Slaughter Cobra Clutch Club. And if you do survive the Cobra Clutch, you get my prestigious challenge coin. But you can't buy those; you have to earn them.
You got to earn it by surviving the Cobra. Okay. I think
right.
I would like to try that. Honestly,
you should try it. You should try it.
This is a lineup. I'm just gonna go through real quick. Sting, Trish Stratus, Lita is gonna be there. Both Hardys, Mick Foley, Booker T, Lex Luger, Ron Simmons, yourself, Scott Steiner, Sid Vicious, Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Oh, everybody! Everybody's gonna be there, man. It's crazy.
If anybody sees the Hacksaw, ask him if he's been bowling with Sergeant Slaughter lately. It's a great story.
Did you win? Who won?
Yeah, I won. He wasn't too happy about it. It's a good story. I don't know if we have time to tell it here.
I got all the time in the world for you, sir. If you got time to tell it, I got time to listen.
Well, I'll speed it up. Hacksaw came into the WWF when it was owned by Mr. McMahon Sr. and didn't know a whole lot about wrestling, but he challenged me to the Slaughter Sergeant Slaughter Cobra Clutch Challenge and wasn't able to collect the $5,000, but later on asked if he could try it again the next night. So on our way out, I said, "Where are you staying?" He said, "Oh, I'll sleep in my car." I said, "Well, follow me. You come with me to stay at my place." So we went to get his car, and he had to get in the passenger side because someone T-bowed the driver's side. He couldn't get in through that door. So he was driving the car in the middle of the car. Luckily, it was a bench seat. And so when we got to my apartment, I said, "Just park that thing for a while. I'll tell Mr. McMahon to put you on all my shows." So we became roommates, and we started playing these video games. Back then, it was just battery operated, and I used to always beat him at all the games, baseball, football, whatever we played. So one day we were on a road trip, and we got into the town early, and I was driving, and Stan Hansen was with us, and I said, "You guys want to get something to eat? You want to go to a movie? We got plenty of time." No, they didn't want to eat. They didn't want to go to a movie. all of a sudden Hacksaw gave me a chop on my chest and said, pull over right over there. And he pointed at a building. And I said, where? He said, right there. And I said, where, that bowling alley? He said, yeah, the bowling alley. I got something I can beat you at. So I said, well, I haven't bowled in many, many years. Can I have a practice game? He said, yeah, you can have a practice game. So I took my time. I got the wrong size shoes 3 or 4 times, and I had to go back and forth. He was getting frustrated. Come on, Slaughter, let's go. And so finally I went to bowl, and I said, oh, the ball's too small. I can't get my thumb in here. And he said, come on, Slaughter, let's go. So finally I bowled the practice game, and I had about a 58 or something like that. And he had 124, 25. And he said, all right, let's go. I said, how much you want to go for? He said, let's go the $20 we normally go when we play games. I said, okay, how about $1 a pin? And he said, what do you mean $1 a pin? I said, well, you just beat me like about 70 points. That'd be 70 extra dollars. He said, all right, let's go. So we flipped the coin, and Stan Hansen just kept score. So he went first, and then it was my time. So I went to throw the ball at the foul line, and I walked back. And I said, something's wrong. And he said, what's wrong, Slaughter? And I said, I don't know, but I'll figure it out. So I went to throw the ball again, and I came back, and I said, Hacksaw, there's something really wrong. He said, what is it? What is it? I said, I don't know. I'll get to figure it out. So about the last time I went to go throw the ball, I came back. I said, I got to figure it out. He said, what is it? I said, I bowled the first game left-handed. I'm actually right-handed. And I used to bowl when I was younger before I got into wrestling about 4 nights a week, and I had about a 200 average.
Oh, my God.
So it didn't go over so well, and I won a bunch of money that day, and Stan Hansen just got the biggest kick out of it. And as we approached the arena, he said, Dan, don't you tell anybody what Slaughter just did to me. He said, oh, I won't. And he jumped out of the car and ran into the dressing room and said, hey, everybody, you got to hear what Sergeant Slaughter did to the Hacksaw. And so if you should happen to see Hacksaw this Saturday or Sunday, ask him if he's been bowling lately with the Sarge.
Is that why he started carrying the 2x4? Because he was looking.
That's why he started carrying. Actually, he wasn't the Hacksaw back then, but he is now.
Yeah, man. I you know what? I grew up watching you, sir, and I mean, like, from the time I was a small kid watching wrestling, and then I was a GI Joe fanatic. Like, that was my thing. I loved it. I had the GI Joe of you, your little tank, the whole 9 yards. What do you find the fans to be like? Are they different for WWE fans? For G.I. Joe fans, is it the same fans? What do you find in the fans?
Pretty much they're all the same fans, but I have seems like more ladies are G.I. Joe fans for some reason. But they're grown now. They're young girls, and I started G.I. Joe in 1985, so a lot of them weren't even born then, and the ones that were bring Sergeant Slaughter action figures to me, and the Triple T tank, and all the other vehicles that I had, and of course the Marauders and the Renegades, and just talk about the G.I. Joe, the movie, the first animated movie, and how they just couldn't understand how a real live person was actually in the G.I. Joe. Of course, I wanted to do the voice so that I could read the script.
Right.
And, so I didn't want anybody messing around with my character, so I did the voice. So a lot of people really jumped on board, and they a lot of them thought I was a G.I. Joe first and not a wrestler first, but it's the other way around. One time I was wrestling in Kansas City, Missouri in 1975, and I used a move called the Slaughter Clutch, which is the Cobra Clutch, but I called it the Slaughter Clutch And Harley Race, the NWA World Heavyweight Champion, came over to me and said, "Hey, kid, I like the move, but I don't like the name." I said, "Well, what's wrong with it?" He said, "It looks more like you got a snake in your hands and you're putting guys in a cobra clutch instead of a slaughter clutch." I said, "Hey, I like that. I'm going to use that." And little did I know, 10 years later, I'd be in G.I. Joe, and the enemy is Cobra. So, the stars were lined up that night when Harley gave me that advice. And here we are today, it's unbelievable. We're going to San Diego this year. I think it's in July, the 25th and 26th of July for the big San Diego Comic-Con, and we're making a huge announcement. I can't.
Yeah, I heard it's a big secret.
Yet, but it's a big one, and Hasbro keeps growing and growing and growing, and I'm growing along with them. And I don't get in the ring anymore, but I still fight Cobra. So it's a lot easier doing a voice and fighting Cobra animated than it is in real life. But everybody's on board. It's going to be a fantastic announcement. Looking forward to telling everybody. And of course, every year we go to Joe Fest over in Augusta, Georgia.
Yeah, that's coming up the 21st.
June, yeah, exactly. June 21st, 23rd. And of course, we always have the Breakfast with Sarge. It grows and grows every year. And it's a great event to go to while you're at the Joe Fest. And I just can't tell people enough to, if you have an opportunity to come not only this weekend to River City WrestleCon, but if you get a chance to go to Joe Fest, or you happen to be out in San Diego, if you don't make it, you're going to hear about the announcement anyway. But those are one-of-a-kind events, especially Joe Fest. And, of course, River City, as you said some of the names, it's incredible. Jimmy Hart, Joe Henning, AJ Francis, I think Kurt Angle to be there, and Matt Riddle, Jerry the King Lawler. Haven't seen him in a while. He had some health problems, but heard he's kicking out of the two, and he's back on his feet. So it's going to be great to see Jerry the King.
I told my best friend, because me and my best friend, we grew up kind of together talking about G.I. Joe and wrestling. That was like our thing together. And he told me, he's like, "Man, you got to ask him who is tougher to wrestle, Pat Patterson or Serpentor?" And I was like, I'm not going to ask him that. That's a bizarre.
Oh, yeah. Pat Patterson was a battle. That was a one-of-a-kind, probably the greatest match of all time in Madison Square Garden.
That's what they say.
Because it was a match that had never been before, and I don't think it's ever been since. We had a match where there was no rules. You could wear whatever you wanted to wear into the ring, no disqualification, no count out, and no referee. Not a referee in sight. So try doing that sometime.
No, thank you.
And
no.
As I was walking out or getting ready to warm up to walk out to the ring, I said to my manager, who's Ernie Roth, I called him the General. I said, "Ernie, I got a question for you." He said, "Yeah, Sarge, what is it?" I said, "No rules, no disqualification." Went through the whole thing, and I said, "And no referee." He said, "Yeah, that's it." I said, "How does this end? How does this match end?" And he went, "Sarge, that's a good question. I'll be right back." And so he headed over to Vince McMahon's office and came back. He said, "Don't worry about it. It's all taken care of." I said, "Okay." So we went out and about murdered each other. And I was a little upset with Ernie, but Pat had gotten the best of me. I hit the ring post and split my head wide open. And but I kept fighting, and I was outside the ring trying to fight my way back in for my second win. And as I was getting to the ropes to continue fighting, I see this white cloth, and then it wasn't there. And then I looked again, and then it flew into the ring. Ernie had thrown the towel in, and that's how the match ended. He said, Mr. McMahon said, you guys are going to fight till one of you looks like you're going to need to go to the hospital. And he said, you look like you needed to go to the hospital. I said, it doesn't matter. I was ready to beat him, but actually it all worked out best because everybody in the Madison Square Garden or whoever saw that match said that's one tough SOB right there because he wasn't giving up. He was made to give up by his manager, and they still use that match as a teaching tool in training camps, especially the WWE. Shawn Michaels shows it to all the new trainees that this is how you tell a story in a professional wrestling match. And it's quite an honor when I see young wrestlers of today come to me and say, we've watched your match over and over and over, and it really was the greatest match of all time.
See, that's like, to me, the artistic side of professional wrestling, because you can go into a match, right? You guys build the entire story with your characters and your promos, but then you go into a match and that's a different story. And sometimes you can watch a guy make a heel turn or a face turn in the match and people start cheering or rooting against the person in that match. And that's, like, to me, the most artistic thing in pro sports.
Yeah, that's what they call art. It's a lost art, actually. And I always, made an example that we were artists, and the canvas in the ring was our, what we painted the picture for everybody that was in the arena and at home. And you would tell that story by telling the story in the ring. And when you got two generals, which we call generals that know really how to tell that story, when you get two of those together, like Pat Patterson and I did, it's still talked about. Our match is still talked about today. So it's just one of those things that's a lost art, and I'm glad to see that Triple H is bringing it back to where it should be, because someone's going to get hurt and hurt bad and possibly killed the way they're going at it now. It's just like going to the circus and watching high flyers and acrobats, without a net. And I always tell people we're actors. Wrestlers are actors, but we're our own stuntmen, stunt women. We don't have anybody taking our falls for us, and there's no timeout. There's no, let's do that again, or let's try that over. And it's just getting too far, the wrong way. So I'm glad to see Triple H is bringing it back to where it's more of a storytelling, because people want to be entertained, and they don't want somebody to die. I mean,
right? Yeah.
You go to Indianapolis 500, you go to NASCAR races, you want to see the crash, but you don't want to see anybody die.
Right.
But it's just getting too tough out there. Some of these guys, they aren't going to know it now, but in 10 years from now, they ain't going to be able to walk. Just their bodies. I just watched Ricky Steamboat's biography, and he talked about how he fell on his tailbone and got a herniated disc, and that was it. It was over, and you can't do anything after that. And these guys just don't realize it, don't understand. I don't care how much you're trained and who your trainers are. When you take a fall the wrong way, there's nothing anybody can do about it.
Yeah, it seems like it's the easy way that's hard. You know what I mean? It's like big oohs and ahs, but at the same time, it's not really the artistry that is professional wrestling, and it's not sustainable. You don't get to see a person wrestling like Sting was at a high level into his 60s because he didn't do all that silly stuff. Right.
Until he got to the AEW, he started doing those silly things. And not too long ago, probably about 6 months ago, he took a dive off the top rope turnbuckle onto a table and missed it and knocked half his teeth out of his mouth. And that, I think that was his coup de grace to say, I think I've had enough of this, because he was hurt pretty badly, but he continued the match. But it's just that, he wasn't trained, and I wasn't trained. Our era of wrestlers weren't trained to take and come off a top turnbuckle onto a table that's not going to move. I mean, it's just not worth it. The people, as I said, they go to a hockey game, they want to see a fight, but they don't want to see somebody get killed.
Right.
It's one of those things. You just got to know your limitations, and I think he saw his limitations when he saw his teeth laying there on the ground.
To make it that far and then lose your teeth at that point in your career,
Yeah, especially when he was thinking about retiring anyway.
Right.
Yeah, but he has a young protege that was doing most of the work. So that's the way it was when I was at the end of my career. I was doing tag matches and 6-man tags so that I didn't have to. It wasn't that I didn't want to. It's just I didn't want to disappoint my fans that I couldn't do what I used to do at one time. There's a time where you just have to say, that's it. That's enough,
Well, your
and,
body
I'm
is...
glad that he's done, and I'm glad he's going to be there. And Trish Stratus, as you said, Mick Foley, look at Mick Foley. He's going to be there. He can hardly walk, after all the things that he's done. But he loves this business so much that he'll come whether he has to crawl to be there. And it's just one of those kind of talents that don't come along too often.
Well, you talk about a guy who literally gave his entire body to this profession. I mean, geez.
Yeah. And the element of surprise has always worked in this business. When I went up against the Iron Sheik, everybody hated me more than anything. And when I stepped in and challenged him because he was from Iran and I was the United States Marines, element of surprise works every time, and that's what Mick did to me. Watching that cage match that he had with The Undertaker, and all of a sudden he's being thrown off the top of that cage onto a table. My breath went out of my body, and I had to check myself, make sure I was okay, and rub my eyes to see, did I just witness that? It just was an incredible feat. And where do you go from there?
Nowhere. There's nowhere to go. Yeah, everybody's still chasing.
Nowhere
that.
else to go.
Yeah.
I saw a videotape of a young indie wrestler, which we call indie wrestlers. They're independent wrestlers. And he got up on a high school wall that had a ledge. And there's a table about 20, 30 feet below. And he went to dive on this his opponent, and he missed the table.
Oh my God!
He broke his ribs. He broke his back, broke his elbow, and I don't think he's ever recovered. And it's just crazy stuff. You got to put a stop to it. I'm glad to see Triple H is doing that.
Yeah, it's a storytelling art that you can compel people. Like it's all about passion. I know that you have been like a champion in different promotions and things like that. You were even voted, and I can't imagine this, but in 1991 you were voted the most hated wrestler from Pro Wrestling Illustrated. When you're a heel, right, is that like a big honor?
Well, yeah. Anytime you get awards like that, because you're playing a character. I wasn't an Iraqi sympathizer. I was Sergeant Slaughter playing an Iraqi sympathizer, and Vince McMahon wanted me to play that role. And when I just gotten out of GI Joe, it made it even hotter because it was what we call nuclear heat, which doesn't happen too often in our business. And someone like Sergeant Slaughter, who was a GI Joe, all of a sudden comes in and he's an Iraqi sympathizer. That's heat that people have never witnessed or experienced, and so it caused people to, those who really believed it, it caused myself and my family and friends to be in danger because people were threatening to kill me and kill my family and bomb my house and bomb the wrestling office and bomb Vince McMahon's house and kill us both and kill our families. I mean, that was quite a time in my career where I was so busy, doing what I had to do, and Vince said, I want you to do this, and I said, well, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to go all the way. He said, yeah, I want you to go all the way. If you go too far, I'll pull you back. So there were times when I did some crazy things, that made people pretty upset, and it was just a character that I was playing, and but the reason I did it was because the carrot dangling in front of my face was to sell out the LA Coliseum of 104 to 105,000 fans, which would beat the Detroit record, WrestleMania, of 93,000, and that was the carrot. That's what I wanted to do. That's the only reason I did it. And then when we were told that we couldn't go into the Coliseum because of so many death threats and bomb threats, and they wanted Vince McMahon to secure the building for $5 million, and ticket sales weren't going so well, and he didn't know if he wanted to take a chance on it. We would have sold it out, but it would have been, a tough sell, and it would have been dangerous because there are people that wanted do things. Why they do them, we don't know, but there's a lot of them in prison, killing or shooting presidents and shooting rock stars, John Lennon and things like that. There are some crazy people out there, so I had to really be careful. I wore FBI came and asked me to wear a bulletproof vest.
Oh wow!
That they were, a mesh bulletproof vest, because they said whether you know it or not, we get at least 10 to 12 calls a day that you're going to get killed. You're going to be shot if you show up at such and such an arena, because people actually bought into that I did it so well. They actually believed that I was an Iraqi sympathizer, but I did all that just to sell out that LA Coliseum, and that was the dagger in the heart for me, because we couldn't go in there, and that's the only reason I did it. And I wanted to have that medal on my chest to say I sold it out. When you're the main event and you do something like that, even though you have help underneath the card, you're the one that is responsible. You're the main event. So that was, that would have been in the record books, the rest of history, that Sergeant Slaughter and Hulk Hogan, sold out the LA Coliseum, but it never happened. So all that work and all those dangerous times were for naught. We had the pay-per-view record for a couple of years, but it was in the LA arena, it wasn't at the Coliseum,
That's a real good news, bad news kind of thing. The good news is that you've done your job so good that people believe you and want to kill you. The bad news is that people want to kill you. That's amazing.
Yeah. There's only one road that you're on, So I did what I was asked to do, and as Vince McMahon told me when I started it, he said, Sarge, wrestling fans will always forgive you if you ask them to. And I said, I don't know about this one. He said, they will. And they did.
They did.
You know, I asked for my country back, and here we are. You know, going strong, heavy with Hasbro again. We just re-enlisted with Hasbro 2 years ago, and looks like we're going to do another few years with them. And you know, people. I have a few people once in a while on social media will still have a grudge that I'm an Iraqi sympathizer no matter what. But that's the name of the game. That's called entertainment.
Yeah, that's you know, you live by the sword, you die by the sword, I suppose.
That's right. Exactly.
Sarge,
I'm sure it's the same in your business.
It is.
I mean, I'm sure there's people that don't like that you played a certain song, you know, especially if it's a classic rock song and they want to hear something different. Maybe that's why you have two stations or two types of music that you do to, you know, satisfy those who don't want to listen to classic rock, which is my favorite, of course. But
you know, the people too. The internet has made people so disgusting. Like they would just. They will say the most horrendous things without any sort of repercussions. Like, you know, I'm a person and we live in the same city. Right. And if I see you, I'm probably going to punch you in the face. You know what I mean?
Right.
This is not electronic. This is the real world. So it's a bizarre thing. But most of the time people are pretty cool. It's just people are passionate about stuff they care about, you know?
Well, it's easy to say something when you're pushing the letters on your cell phone, you know, but to actually do it live and in person, it's a whole different thing. People have an alter ego or another character, just like a wrestler, I guess, that I don't know how young kids date anymore. You know, a friend of mine told me about his daughter, her boyfriend texted her and said, I don't want to be with you anymore. Texted her, you know, broke up with her on a text message. I mean, how I just don't understand how those things happen. But technology now, I mean, what's next?
Yeah.
What are we going to have next after cell phones? And, I guess the robots are on their way.
The robots are on their way, Sarge, and they are terrifying. Yeah. It is so scary. I never thought.
May I ask how you get your nickname?
My name, Tank. Well, honestly, you know, back in the beginning, when I first started doing two different stations, I went by two different names. I used my real name, Jake. On one station, and we were looking for a name, and I'm a big old fat guy. So we were going between Lunchbox and Tank. We couldn't decide which one to go with. And I like Tank better because it's like more serious. You know what I mean? I'm a jokester guy, but I'm not like, I don't want to be taken for a clown. You know what I mean? I want to be taken serious because I'm a serious person, but I just thought it was a better name.
Yeah. Yeah, Roddy Piper and I came up with the character Doink the Clown.
Oh, yeah, I love Doink. I love Doink.
We were driving down the highway one night and just laughing about different things and different characters. And I said, wouldn't it be funny to have a clown that came in and he was really nice and the kids loved him and, you know, was a really fun clown. But, you know, later on, you have the cameras go back out behind the arena, and he shut his nose off, and he's smoking a cigarette, and, you know, and the camera comes on, and he goes, "Hey, get that camera out of here," you know. And Roddy and I started laughing about it, and he actually had a friend, Matt Bourne, who I wrestled his father in Portland, Oregon, back in the early '70s. And Matt became a wrestler, and he said, "I know the perfect guy. Matt Bourne would be perfect." And so we brought it up at a meeting with Vince, and he loved it too. And it's just funny how you create little things like that, just, you know, driving down the road.
Dude, some of the best ideas people have are just offhand comments that turn into something else.
They are. It's just like a joke, you know. Lord Alfred Hayes, who was one of my managers at one time when I was wrestling under a MAS Super Destroyer Mark II. And he used to tell me that nursery rhymes were real stories. Like the mouse that ran up the clock and the lady chopped off their tails. He said that was a real happening, and that they made a fairy tale out of it, like a joke. And he said the London Bridge is falling down. It actually did. They had and kids used to, do the thing in the United States where they, grab hands and go around and all those kind of games, and that's how things happen. It's just like the idea that Vince McMahon came up with to be an Iraqi sympathizer, and so I did it, and I went along with it. But most people still remember me as Sergeant Slaughter, the tough guy that took on the Iron Sheik and became the first living GI Joe. And I don't know if a lot of people know this, but I'm the one of the only people, human beings, that is in a GI Joe Hall of Fame and a WWE Hall of Fame. And so it's quite a. You don't really think much about it, but when you think of all the billions of people in the world, I'm the only one that has that recognition, and it's quite an honor.
Yeah, and take somebody like myself who grew up in that era. You know what I mean? And that, dude, you were everything to us. You know what I mean? Like, people would bring your action figure or your WWE action figure, or we'd be talking about it. Oh, did you see the movie? Oh, did you see what? Did you watch the match? It's crazy to think that I'm sitting here right now talking to you on the phone because of how huge that is. You know what I mean? Like, and the GI Joe thing, like, especially. Because like I said, I loved WWE, but G.I. Joe was like a formative part of my life growing up.
Right. It's actually more real.
Kinda, yeah.
More real. Because I guess it's part of our childhood. Like, the girls had Barbie and the guys had G.I. Joe, and we always had a lot of fun with it, with Barbie and G.I. Joe, and we came up with a lot of scenarios that I won't come up with here, but we really do have, you have to have a sense of humor to be a professional wrestler, and you have to, bite your tongue sometimes and bite the inside of your cheek from saying something that probably aren't appropriate.
Sure.
When I started professional wrestling, there were no scripts. It was everything was ad lib. So if you created a character, you had to research your character. You had to know what your character would do and what it wouldn't do. And so when you get to the stage where there were scripts, I told Vince McMahon, I don't know if I could be in the business today because I'm not a good memorizer. And the guys, that do it today, I marvel at how long that they talk. We used to do it just off the top of our head. Now they have to say certain things because CM Punk kind of ruined it for everybody because he a couple times went on Raw and SmackDown, which were live, and used the F-bomb.
Ooh.
And Vince McMahon got pretty upset with it and said, that's it. We're going to start writing scripts because I want to know what's being said, and that's it, And so he kind of ruined it for everybody. That's why you see a lot of the wrestlers that give him a hard time because now he's back with the WWE. And when he left, he kind of ruined it for everybody. But he's a good guy. Probably just didn't mean it. It was his character that he was portraying. But they shipped him off. Vince said that I can't have it anymore. You don't follow orders, you're out of here. So, but now he's back, and unfortunately, I think he's hurt, but he'll be back. He's quite the mic man, like Hulk Hogan. Nobody was better on the mic than Hulk Hogan, Roddy Piper, and but Hulk, he could talk to Chrome off a bumper, but he didn't know a headlock from a hammerlock. So you'd have to take him around the ring and like a dance. You dance with him. But I called him the Golden Goose because whenever he and I got into a ring, we made more money.
Yeah.
Because people wanted to see that. That's what they wanted to see. And I had a great time, as I said, ring general. I was a ring general. And I could take guys like Hulk Hogan and teach him how to dance, whether he knew how to do it or not. But he only had one speed. Not quite like the Ultimate Warrior that never stopped. He was hard to stop and tell the story with because he was always on the move, and it was like he couldn't be hurt. So I had to explain to him, hey, if you don't start doing it the right way, people aren't going to care about you, because if you're not hurt, and there's no reason to care about you or want you to beat me up. If I do something to you pretty badly and you're laying there because of what I did to you, now the people are going to start cheering for you to get up and beat the hell out of me. So he learned in a hurry. He knew how to do it. But every time he went in the ring, everybody was different, and each audience was different. You couldn't, talk out a wrestling match in the locker room and then try to go out there and do it, because you didn't know if the fans were going to cheer the certain arenas around the country like the villains better than they like the heroes. So you had to, had to walk out there and see who they were going for. And if I was wrestling someone like a Hulk Hogan, and they were kind of cheering me more than him, we'd have to, really work hard. I'd have to really work hard to finally get the people to start booing me, because that's what we had to have happen.
Right.
That was the art. That was the art of it. That was the fun part, and how you tell the story.
Well, the skill set of the improv mic skills and the ability in the ring and things like that, because there are, certainly there are guys that never have bad matches, and that's because, someone like you as a ring general can make it a good match, even if the opponent doesn't necessarily have the skill set. Exactly.
And you understand that.
Yeah, I'm a fan. I'm a big fan.
A lot of people don't understand that it's a story. It's good versus evil. The old good versus evil. Back when I first started watching wrestling, the Germans and the Russians and all those guys were the bad guys. The Oriental wrestlers, the Asian wrestlers, the Japanese wrestlers, they were always the villains because of the wars, And so when I came up with Sergeant Slaughter and brought it to the assistant of Vern Gagne, he said, well, Bob, they've had a lot of Army guys and G.I. Joes and la, but they never really got over. And I said, well, okay, I just thought it would work. And so next thing, here comes Vern Gagne walking in, who trained me. Hey, how's it going? I said, good. He said, what's up? I said, well, I came up with this character, Sergeant Slaughter, a former drill instructor of the United States Marine Corps, and I put my campaign cover on it, my sunglasses, and I had my swagger stick. And he said, well, let me hear a promo. So I started doing a promo to him, and he jumped up behind his desk out of his chair, grabbed my campaign cover and my glasses and my swagger stick, and he started doing Sergeant Slaughter to me because he hated his drill instructor and he was in the Marine Corps. And he said, "That's the greatest idea I've ever seen." And he said, "Harley Race just called me yesterday and wants you to, and is looking for a villain, and this would be perfect." But unfortunately, my mother was sick, and I couldn't get down there right away. But eventually, I did, and the rest is history.
And all these years later,
one person didn't like it, and the other thought it was the greatest thing since sliced bread.
But you thought of it as a hero, though, right?
Yeah, I never went as a hero. I was always a villain.
Oh, okay.
The reason I turned hero was when I went against the Iron Sheik. I had wrestled in the WWF for Vince McMahon Sr., and he came to me after about 6-7 months, and he said, "Sergeant, I want you to leave for a while." And I said, "Why? Did I do something wrong?" And he said, "No, I just don't want you to be overexposed your first time here. I want people to beg me to have you come back because you're such a good villain." So I left and went down to Charlotte for a couple of years, became the NWA United States champion twice, once against Ricky Steamboat and once against Wahoo McDaniels. And then it was time to come back. And right before I did another little run with Don Carnoble, and I wrestled Ricky Steamboat and Jay Youngblood in the NWA World Heavyweight program. And that broke records that still stand today in the Crockett Promotions, And so when I went back, we used to always do 3 tapings on a Monday and a Tuesday. And Monday was always Allentown, and Tuesday was Hamburg. And then we would come back three weeks later and do it again. And so I had come back, and I continued the role as Sergeant Slaughter, the villain. And we went out to have a little dinner, Vince McMahon Sr., myself, and his son, Vincent Kennedy, and a couple other wrestlers. And Mr. McMahon Sr. said, "Sergeant, it's so good to have you back. You're the greatest villain of all time. I've always told everybody that you're the greatest villain of all time." And I kept putting me over. And I said, "Well, Mr. McMahon, if you think Sergeant Slaughter is such a great villain, you ought to see him as a hero." And he said, "What? Sergeant Slaughter is a hero? What are you talking about?" So then I went through the whole thing with Iran. I said, "You got the Iron Sheik here. Ayatollah Blasty, Fred Blasty was his manager." And I said, Mr. McMahon, we never got a chance to punch Ayatollah Khomeini right in the nose for all that he did. He got away with it. He got away with the hostage situation, like the killing of the Marines at the embassy, the Black Hawks going down. He never was punished for that. Why don't you let me, Sergeant Slaughter, go after the Iron Sheik from Iran and say, we're getting some payback? And I almost hypnotized him, Tank. He was just like staring at me and like believing that all this, and all of a sudden he like snapped out. He said, "Oh, that was really good, Sergeant, but no, you could never, you could do it for a little while, but you need to stay a villain." And I look over his shoulder at his son, who was Vincent Kennedy of today, and he's like shaking his head, giving me the thumbs up. Yeah, I like that idea. And of course, his dad turned around and said, "Vinny, don't you ever make the sergeant a hero. It won't work. It won't work." So we go off and do our wrestling for the next 3 weeks, and of course we come back to do TV again in Allentown, and we do the first show on the villain, of course, and people are hating me more and more and more. And then I go out for the second show, even worse, they're hating me more. The third show I'm not even supposed to be on. I think I was supposed to do maybe a a promo or something. But so all of a sudden, Vincent Kennedy comes running into the locker room. He goes, "Sarge, are you ready?" And I said, "I was born ready. What do you want?" He said, "What you told my dad, 3 weeks ago." I said, "You mean about going against the Iron Sheik?" He said, "Yeah, I want to do that." And I said, "Okay, good." I said, "When?" He said, "Right now." I said, "What?" Right now, next. The Iron Sheik's got a match with Eddie Gilbert. And I'm not going to tell him or Fred Blassie. I'm not going to tell anybody. Only you and I and the truck, because I have to let them know to play your music. Otherwise, they won't do it. And I said, "Oh, you really do?" He said, "Yeah. And I want you to give me your best General Patton promo when you go out there against the Iron Sheik." So, as I said earlier, we had lived everything. So here I am trying to I'm putting my boots back on. I can't find my campaign cover because one of the ring attendants put it somewhere. And I'm getting ready to go out there, and I'm watching the monitor, and they're beating up this poor Eddie Gilbert pretty bad, and they have to bring the gurney out for him. So the Iron Sheik is like knocking him off the gurney and beating him up, and all of a sudden my music, the Marine Corps hymn, starts playing through the arena, and it was like almost dead silence. And I look at the monitor, and I see Fred Blassie and the Iron Sheik. I could read their lips. They're going, "Wrong music." They're playing the wrong music because they didn't know, that I was coming. And so I walk out, and the people were kind of like dead silent. And all of a sudden, I pointed at the Iron Sheik, and I said, "You want to fight somebody? How about fighting this Marine?" And those people started stomping their feet and jumping up and down. And it was like the bugler and the cavalry was on the way. Here comes Sergeant Slaughter to the rescue. Yeah, I'm getting goosebumps.
Me too. I was just getting ready to say, I'm getting the biggest goosebumps.
And so we meet halfway to the ring, and he doesn't know what's going on, and I do, and so we just kind of jawed each other, and people were, "John, get him, Sarge, get him, USA, USA." So I get in the ring, and I help Eddie get out of the ring on the gurney, and grab the microphone, and I said, "Iron Sheik, I declare war on you." And the people started going crazy and cheering. And I said, "There's one thing that I've done ever since I was a young boy in school and in Cub Scouts and the Boy Scouts and the Marine Corps." And I put my hand on my heart, and I started saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Well, those people all jumped on their chairs and got their lighters, and they're saying the Pledge of Allegiance with me. And it was a moment that'll go down in wrestling history of how I took those people, as you said earlier, how you can handle somebody in the palm of your hand, handle your fans in the palm of your hand. And I that's what I did. I went from the most hated villain of all time to the biggest hero of all time within, 5-10 minutes. And it was just an incredible thing that had happened. And I couldn't get out of the Allentown Agricultural Center because the people were mobbed waiting for me to come out. So that's when it all started. And that's when I really became the real American hero without being with G.I. Joe. And so the next time I come, for the next 3 weeks, I was scheduled against all the good guys, so it was tough because I was the heel, I was the villain, and now I'm wrestling all the heroes too, and they're being booed. So it was a tough time for my opponents because they were, not knowing how to handle it. I said, "Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of you. We'll do it." So then when, I came back to Allentown again for the next 3 tapings, I got there early. I found out that I had to get there early because I wouldn't get in the building. And the ring attendant goes, "Hey, Sarge, good to see you. congratulations on everything. I said, "So thanks." He said, "All those bags over there, those mail bags, those canvas bags, there's 8 of them. Those are yours." And I said, "What do you mean they're mine?" "That's all fan mail." I said, "What?" I said, "Yeah, it's fan mail that came for you." So I started going through it, and I was getting letters from everybody. I was getting utility caps and helmets and medals and all kinds of awards and things that their family had won or achieved in the military, and wanted me to sign them and send them back, and sending me money to send them things. And I mean, it was just a chaotic and unbelievable time of professional wrestling. Nobody had ever seen anything like that ever happen. So it just goes to show you, what entertainment is all about.
Yeah, that's incredible. What a great story.
Yeah, a lot of good stories. I just did a 2-hour biography on a lot of this, but I'm 75 years old. It's hard to do 75 plus year career in 2 hours.
Sure.
So they left a lot of good things that didn't make the show. So I decided, I told my wife I need to probably start thinking about writing a book, but it had to be volumes because I couldn't put it all in one book. It would just be impossible to tell the stories because, I signed my first autograph when I was 14 years old. And I was, just one of those things. So I already found stardom when I was at 14 years old. And I was always a good athlete. But the autograph came because I don't know if you have time for this story.
Sure,
but
yeah.
A friend of mine, we used to always sing the Beatles songs when they first came out. And we would sit in the back of his mother's car with the radio on, and anytime a Beatles song would come on, we would sing. So our other friend had a garage band, kind of a rock and roll band. So we went to watch them rehearse one night. And so he says to his band members, we need to start doing some Beatles songs because all the kids are requesting us to play Beatles songs, and all we do is the Beach Boys, beach music. Mm-hmm. And so they said, "Oh yeah, we hear a lot of requests." So they started working on some songs, and they were trying to sing, and they didn't know the words. They didn't have all the books and everything. So I said to my friend, I said, "Phil and I know a bunch of Beatles songs. Do you want us to help you write them down?" He said, "What do you mean you know them?" I said, "Well, we always sing them in the back of his mom's car." He said, "Really? Can you sing them now?" I said, "Yeah." So we sang, "He Loves You," and "I Want to Hold Your Hand." And all the guys said, "That's really good. You guys got to come to our next gig." And I said, "Yeah, okay." So my friend and I, we go out and get matching shirts and matching pants, matching shoes. We were actually going to get Beatle wigs, but it's going to go too far. So we were there watching the first 2 sets, and the kids are, having a good time dancing. It's at a VFW in St. Louis Park, Minnesota. And I'll never forget it. And so all of a sudden, before they start the 3rd set, my friend gets on the microphone. He said, "We have 2 special guests that are going to come up and sing some songs." So we get up there and we started singing "She Loves You." We did "I Want to Hold Your Hand" and "Twist and Shout." And the kids stopped dancing. They ran up to the stage, and the girls are screaming, and the guys are screaming and they're cheering, just like we were the Beatles, And so we get done with the 3 songs, and we go to get a Coca-Cola or whatever at the concession stand, and we're mobbed, and finally kids were asking me for my autograph. So I read Bob Remus. I often wonder if there's still a Bob Remus autograph out there from back then, but that was my first autograph and my first kind of feeling of fame.
Yeah.
And I liked it.
Yeah, that's
So
that's a feeling right there to have women screaming for you and all the guys looking up to you.
Yeah. I said, hey, I kind of like this. And so the next time my friend and his band were going to have a rehearsal, we went over to see if they wanted us to sing some more. And my friend says, well, the guys all got together and they kind of don't want you guys to be a part of it because they were so jealous that we took all the girls. And, that, that's something I'd have to put in the book because, one of those things. That,
you stole their spotlight.
Part of where I'm at today.
Yeah. Hearing that should be the first line of your book. I signed my first autograph at the age of 14. That could be the first line of your book.
Yeah.
That's a real grabber.
Yeah.
I love that.
And
you did an
even
album.
Before that.
You did an album too, right?
I did. Yeah. I always, who didn't want to be a rock and roll star?
Right. Everybody.
I sure did. I don't know too many people that would, if you ask them and they raise their hand, that they won't want to at least try being a rock and roll singer.
Mm-hmm.
That was it, And so a lot of years went by, and I had the problems with the WWE, and I went off to G.I. Joe because they wouldn't let me do G.I. Joe and wrestling at the same time. And Vince McMahon and I had a big falling out because I think he had lined up for me and Hulk Hogan to wrestle Roddy Piper and Paul Orndorff from WrestleMania 1 because of the Hulk coming in and getting really hot. I mean, he was on fire, and I was already on red hot on fire. And so he thought, man, this is what I'm going to do my first WrestleMania with. Of course, when I got approached by Hasbro and I went to tell him about it, he said, that's great, but I can't let you do it. And I said, why not? He said, because I just signed with LJN. I said, L what? LJ what? LJN. And I said, but I'm talking Hasbro, the biggest boys toy in the world. And he said, well, I understand that, but I've already signed the contract and there would be a conflict of interest. So, but thank you for trying. I appreciate you trying to, do things to help our business. He said, but I can't let you do it. And I went, wait a minute. There's got to be a way. And of course, he went budge. And so finally one night at the dinner table, my wife looked over at me. She said, what is wrong with you? You're like pouting. So, well, Vince won't let me go to Hasbro and be the first living G.I. Joe. And I went through the whole thing with her. And she said, Bob, it's a pretty good, easy decision. I said, it is? She said, yeah. You can always be a wrestler. You can't always be the first living G.I. Joe.
Right.
And I looked at her and I said, that's why you get the big bucks, honey. That's why you signed the check. And so I called Vince the next morning and gave my notice, and all hell broke loose. And so we battled each other. I won't go through that whole thing, but lawsuits and this and that, because he said he owned Sergeant Slaughter. And in 1975, I trademarked Sergeant Slaughter. So that did go over so well, especially when he had already ordered, LJN Sergeant Slaughter action figures. So Hasbro, found out that he either canceled it or he destroyed all the ones that they made of me, and decided to make one to go into the LJN line of action figures of Sergeant Slaughter. So that got a little bit more heat on me.
Yeah.
So I was battling it all the time. So during my time away from the WWF at that time, I had to think of ways to keep myself out there because I didn't have any television. And of course, AWA, where I was trained, Vern Gagne, called me up and he said, hey, if you need a place to wrestle, you sure welcome to come here. And I said, well, will you allow me to promote G.I. Joe? He said, you damn right. So I said, well, I'm on my way. So they gave me airtime, and I was under no contract, so I could do whatever kind I wanted. So I said, I always wanted to try this music stuff. So I wrote the song called The Cobra Clutch, and wrote a couple other songs on the album. We made an album, and I got a guy that had a band, and we called ourselves Sarge Slaughter Camouflage. And the album was Sarge Slaughter Camouflage Rocks America. And it was all pretty much patriotic type songs. And so we just didn't know how to promote a music, life. So I went to New York City with my attorney, and we had some top producer there. I can't quite to remember his name, but he had a group called Autograph.
Oh yeah, turn up the radio.
And he said, the reason I think you guys would really click is because they're completely opposite of you. They all have hair on the top of their heads that's like a foot high, and they're all different colors, pink and red, purple and yellow, and you coming in as Sergeant Slaughter singing with them, you don't have to have an instrument or anything. He said, if you want to have an instrument, we'll get you a guitar or whatever, and they won't be able to hear it. You just play it, And I said, really? Yeah. So we got to one of the sessions, and I just got so nervous and so jittery, It was a whole different stage than going into a wrestling ring, and I wasn't sure if I would be accepted by the fans, But so we did one concert, and it was great. It was unbelievable, and but I just didn't think it was for me. I said I think I'll just stick with the wrestling, and I did pursue it. But it was Nigel Rogers.
Oh yeah, Nile Rodgers.
Nile Rodgers
was
the producer.
Yeah, very famous producer.
Yeah, he was the one that wanted us to do it, and I should have maybe gone with it, but who knows? I might not be talking to you right now.
I mean, it seems like you made the right decisions, honestly, because you are where you are.
Right.
There's
right.
no.
I never looked back. Never looked back at any decision I made that was right or wrong. I just did what I thought was right.
And not for nothing.
Live with the outcome. Had to live with the outcome.
Not for nothing, but LJN makes the worst games on Nintendo I ever played. So, I mean, take that for what it's worth.
Yeah.
But yeah. Sarge, I could keep you here all day because, like I said, I'm a huge fan and I love your stories. But I know you got to get back to work and I got to take a winner. So before we go, I just want to remind everybody you're going to be at River City Wrestling Con this weekend at World Golf Village. Coming up on the 21st through the 23rd, you're going to be at Joe Fest in Augusta, Georgia. And coming up in July, you have a big announcement at Comic-Con, but it's a secret. Maybe you'll tell me off the air. We'll find out soon. But thank you so much.
I'll whisper in your.
Thank you so much for taking.
Thank you so much for having me on, and I hope everybody gets an opportunity to come over to the World Golf Village Renaissance Resort. I think it's, if I remember right, the last time I was there was like 500 South Legacy Trail. We're going to be there from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. both days, and it'll be a ton of people to see, and I'm not going to be the only one there. So come on over on the A1A and the Coastal Byway, and come on over through the way you got to get there, and don't miss out on this once in a lifetime opportunity to see those great superstars that you grew up with, and meet the one and only, the only living, first, I shouldn't say only living, the first living G.I. Joe, Sergeant Slaughter. There was a second G.I. Joe who was a football player, but he didn't make it too well, the fridge.
Really? Yeah, William Refrigerator Perry, yeah.
Yeah, his figure didn't sell too well, so he was the second, and then they did a promotionals one for Roddy Piper just for the UK. But we were hoping, Roddy and I were hoping that we were going to be able to do something together in the ring, because he was the Cobra's drill instructor, and I was G.I. Joe's drill instructor. So it would have been a lot of fun, but Roddy passed on us. So God bless him. And I'm his son's godfather, so I talk to the family a lot. And we miss him dearly. But please come on out to the River City WrestleCon. Tank, appreciate you having me on, and can't wait to tell you the secrets.
All right, looking forward to it, Sarge. You take it easy and safe travels. Again, this weekend, it's going to be huge. Tickets available at rivercitywrestlingcon.com. Everybody who's anybody in the wrestling business is going to be there. So I would definitely check it out. There's also live wrestling, vendors, the whole 9 yards. It's going to be a great time.
A great time. You won't be disappointed.